today, regular guest here at GBNews and human rights activist Peter Tatchell was arrested in Qatar for staging a peaceful protest in support of gay rights. He was eventually released, but this is the moment he was confronted by police in the Gulf state, where homosexuality is legal and punishable by up to 7 years in prison. The shocking arrest exposes the moral repugnance of, or some would say, hosting the World Cup in the authoritarian Arab state, and has again raised serious questions about whether England and Wales should even be playing at the tournament. But it's not the only political crisis engulfing the troubled tournament. Governing body FIFA are now under pressure to axe Iran from the competition and give its place over to Ukraine over the former country's involvement in Putin's invasion. In a statement, a Ukrainian football team said Shakhtar Football Club calls on FIFA and the entire international community to immediately ban Iran's national team from playing at the World Cup for the country's direct participation in terrorist attacks on Ukrainian. And then the human rights group Open Stadiums wrote an open letter to FIFA stating, "We ask FIFA, based on Articles 3 and 4 of its statutes, to immediately expel Iran from the World Cup in Qatar." So Articles 3 and 4 of FIFA's statute reference their commitment to upholding human rights and non-discrimination. So, Matt Tissier, obviously lots going on with this World Cup. Personally, I actually hate to see politics and football collide in this way, although I absolutely love the fact that Peter Tatchell has the balls to actually go there and confront Qatar. He is a very brave man, whatever you think of his politics. Indeed. But what do you make of these latest calls now to try and, say, evict Iran from the tournament to bring in Ukraine?
I find it a little bit concerning. I'm like you. I think politics needs to keep the hell out of sport, first and foremost. My thoughts as a sportsman would go towards those Iranian footballers who have probably spent their whole life wishing and wanting to play in a World Cup, something that I never got to do. And the fact that they've worked their socks off to get into that position, I'm not sure that they should be stripped of that because of the actions of politicians, quite frankly.
No, and the thing is, we're going down such a slippery slope here, aren't we, Amanda?
I just think the die is set and all this. That's a very good point that you make, because, you know, it is a lifelong dream for a footballer to end up at a World Cup. But the die was set when we first accepted this, what was clearly a corrupt deal that was all done by money being paid behind back and bribes.
We should not be having it.
The whole thing was disgusting from the very beginning.
But then if you don't think we should have it in Qatar, then that's allowing politics to enter into it. I agree we shouldn't. We shouldn't be having it in November. It should be in the summer.
But that's an opinion,
rubbish,
right?
Terrible for Parliament.
That's an opinion that I have. But the issue is that it is in Qatar.
Yeah,
and so
politics have got involved, which means the conversation
Well, I
is now
think
political.
politics have only got involved, Matt, because under Southgate, the England team have turned themselves into moral arbiters by insisting on taking the knee before every game for some sort of anti-racist gesture, when they're then going to a country where women and gay people are second-class citizens. That's where I think the hypocrisy
But they're going to wear, aren't they going to wear the little rainbow armband?
That will make a big difference, won't it?
I find it quite strange, actually, that nobody actually realises the irony in Ukraine wanting Iran thrown out of the World Cup for human rights issues and then wanting to go to Qatar to play in their World Cup with all the human rights issues that have gone on there. So that, for me, is a situation that kind of nobody's really highlighting.
But there are two separate things here. Ukraine shouldn't get a free ticket to play more football because they've had a hard time. That's not how that works.
Okay, so
That's just silly.
So you think Iran should stay in the tournament?
No, it's not like when you get a pony because you broke your leg or whatever. That's not...
Rebecca,
it's not a very relatable childhood
One minute
anecdote,
you're blubbing over Liz Truss, and the next you're being really cruel about footballers and Ukrainian football players.
Because I don't think that just because...
That's the hard-hearted left.
No, that's not the hard-hearted left. It's just completely no logical correlation between there's been a very unfortunate war in your country, so come play some football. No logical sense. Iran should be kicked out instantly. The situation in Iran is probably one of the worst things happening in the world right now, without question, actually. Women are being murdered because they won't cover their hair. That is insane. Yeah. That is the biggest feminist issue in the world, hands down, no question.
I know, but if you start going down the path of expelling countries whose politics we don't agree with from sports tournaments, then they'll end up being
That's not
very
politics we don't agree
small
with.
tournaments. And
Murdering women isn't politics we don't agree
I mean, look,
with.
I've spoken on the show
Murdering
about what's
women.
going on in Iran. It is utterly horrific. But we're talking about the World Cup here. I agree with you,
But
it should
those boys
never
practice
have
really
been
hard,
in
so they should be
Qatar.
allowed to go and play. No!
Well, OK, but then what other countries do you look at expelling?
I understand that it becomes complicated because China doesn't always behave well.
No.
Russia's not got the best track
Well,
record.
no. China doesn't
understand
behave
that.
well.
The
China,
UK
I'm
is not
sorry.
perfect.
China, look at what they're doing to the Uyghur Muslims. That would literally mean China being at no sporting tournament, full stop. And that's not going to happen, and that is a slippery slope.
We're playing America. We're playing the USA in our group as well. I mean, how many wars have they started?
They have not behaved well. I'm the first person to acknowledge that, but I'm not sure that I would say that America and Iran are in the same category.
So, Matt, that's why I think we need to take politics out of sport altogether, although I will say, Matt, one thing that has been pleasing me is we have seen a lot of the left-wing virtue signallers completely exposed over their involvement in Qatar. David Beckham, Gary Neville, Gary Lineker, who are all prepared to go on Twitter and spout nonsense and virtue signal to their heart's content. But when it comes to earning money from a corrupt and discriminatory regime like Qatar, they say, give me the millions, sign me up.